All right. The world is now more interesting. It is the return of Donald J. Trump. And we have the World Economic Forum. We have India. We have Pakistan. We have Iran. We have Iraq here. Everyone's trying to kill each other. Everyone. Even Ethiopia. Even Africans. Just going, just everyone's having a great time. So we first will break down Donald Trump has returned to us. It is official. He won Iowa, running away with it. More than 50% of the vote.
And now we're weird. It's kind of weird because he's sort of a half incumbent, since usually whenever you're an incumbent president, nobody challenges you for the nomination and you just sweep through. But for some reason, we still have like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis just blowing tens of millions of dollars in each state trying to like fight Trump, when it just at this point it really doesn't matter at all. Like, did you watch how the caucuses went?
I mean, I watched a bit. I did not fully involve. Like, to me, it's like Donald Trump is unstoppable. Yes, it has that incumbent thing, but also he's like Donald Trump. Like, he just controls enough of a base, and like, yeah, there still is like there's the dieharders. Like the Jan 6 was like an inside job. Like there's like Trump says we do this, we have to do this, and like there's people who rightfully like want revenge on the system for like overblowing Jans. Like there's like the crazy like super QAnon, like no one did anything wrong at all, and then it's like no, you did like do that, but like, well, this was America's 9/11. No, it wasn't that. And like removing Trump for the thing, and like this legal persecution and the nonsense. Like there's enough of a Trump base that is going to want to sort of like establish that like, no, you can't just take the country from us. You can't just say these people are not allowed to have power in the country, like they're MAGA, like we're re-education camps, and like, no, right? So, and if Trump's like, I want to win, I want to do this again, there's like, there's more than enough, like millions of people are like, yes.
And the problem is, I think that you could say that DeSantis and Nikki Haley, or at least in my opinion, they just ran like two of the worst types of campaigns. DeSantis tried to be like Trump, and like I don't hate any of these candidates, but DeSantis tried to be like Trump, which he's just not going to succeed at doing because he actually has a very, very low key personality. He's like a guys, grab your textbooks, we're going to talk about policy, kind of like a personality. And then you had Nikki Haley. I'm not sure if you ever saw when she announced in like February of last year. It was, well, you guys should vote for me because it wouldn't be an inspiring story that the daughter of two Indian immigrants was able to become the president. Who cares? Who cares?
Who cares?
It's the dumbest pick ever.
That could win a Democratic primary. You can't win a Republican primary. And like, Nikki Haley could have, like, Nikki Haley needs to go a bit more like Trump-esque, but not like Nikki Haley's appeal is like, she's really good at foreign policy, and she was Trump's, UN ambassador. Like, and anyone who knows like, if you hate the United Nations, you should love Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's time in the United Nations was like the precursor to Melee at the World Economic Forum. Like that was Nikki Haley just calling them a bunch of like terrorists and like genocide enablers and like pedophile rings. And like, it was just like, no, you don't have the moral authority to lecture people. Here's why. And it was good. But you're right. Like she is establishment. That was part of her thing, is like, she was, back in like the Tea Party, she was one of the more like reasonable but conservative establishment-y figures. And like, the game has just passed that by in like the last 10 years. Like it's not.
Well, here's the thing too, and it's the same problem with Tulsi Gabbard. Don't run for the presidency on foreign policy. Nobody cares about foreign policy on a national level in almost any country. If you're a country, if the biggest issue is foreign policy, you probably live in Taiwan. You probably live in a country that could be wiped off the map if you don't take the issue seriously enough. So when Tulsi Gabbard runs and she has an online audience saying, oh, she's fantastic, and she gets like 2% or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's because nobody wants to talk about Syria and why you like, Bashar al-Assad. And with Nikki Haley,
Nikki Haley
I don't disagree with her foreign policy. Yeah. Although that's the thing, I don't mind Vivek. Vivek was also really annoying because he would just deliberately miss the point of everything Nikki Haley would say. And now there's an entire audience of people who think Nikki Haley's a demon, who thought she was great when she was the UN ambassador.
Yeah, like, it's sort of like I didn't like Vivek's, like, Vivek would be my last choice for like president of the United States as a Canadian. Like, and Americans who would watch it's like, take this as like a Canadian, where I would prioritize foreign policy. Like, you could say like, yeah, DeSantis and Haley, okay, good foreign policy Republican options. Like they would be good in like more state, they would guaranteed wins. Like, both this DeSantis and Haley, like I do think, like I don't even think for a second, oh, like they don't beat Joe Biden in a general election. Like it's 100% lock. I don't, it's done. We can remove these children from
I think
office.
Trump is too, especially because if Trump wins, you have all these random independents running too.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I do think. Listen, I do think Trump will win because, like, the enough people sort of, the sneer the nose up at Trump after this. I think there's enough of a leap back to it. Like, listen, there's no any reasonable, like, right or center of right person, looking economically at Trump versus this, like, is gonna make the calculus. And like there are gonna be still those never Trumpers who are like, he is mean and racist, and he said things about grabbing people by the pussy, and like, so he says crazy things, and it's like, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And you know what? He says crazy things, but he also lives in reality as the president of the United States of America.
I would also
He lives
argue at
in
this point
reality,
any
and I'll take that
Republican
over
can beat.
the Democrats.
I'd argue that any Republican can beat DeSantis simply because DeSantis has a bunch of left-wing third-party opponents he has to contend with. That doesn't matter who the Republicans run, they're still in the race. So you're still going to have the Green Party with Jill Stein running again. You're still going to have Cornel West, who's a black progressive professor who will be able to grab 2-3% in downtown Atlanta and Michigan, Detroit.
Yeah, he'll grab some
places.
Palestinians too, right? He'll yell about the Jews and do some of
Yeah,
that.
he literally has the Muslim leaders in Dearborn, Michigan, backing him, and it's like, yeah, that's not a lot. That's not a lot of support, but when that's 2% in the state of Michigan, or even 0.5%, a lot of elections come close. And the thing is, those are donors you're stealing. Those are a lot of things that you're stealing. And then you have the No Labels Party that might run like Joe Manchin. That's a walkover for whoever is the Republican, even if it's Trump. And if anything, it's actually maybe easier to win that multi-party race as Trump, because you have a floor of 41% that you cannot go under, where maybe Biden has a higher ceiling, but his floor is like 34%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'd have a party to sort of draw the I want to vote, but I cannot vote for Trump. At least you don't turn that into a Democrat vote. You throw it into a Manchin vote, so it's slightly mitigating. Listen, I think Trump beats Biden. I think, listen, I just say, like, I like this, like, I think DeSantis is more base than Haley. I think DeSantis like would be better than Haley, but like the world's in chaos and needs Donald Trump. Like, I need Donald Trump.
That's where I think we both
all
disagree
need
with the guy
Donald
saying
Trump to come
DeSantis is the Doug Ford of Florida.
I disagree.
No, they're very much the exact opposite.
Doug Ford is the Doug Ford of Kathleen Wynne, like, of Ontario. Like, he spent more than Kathleen Wynne. He locked us all down. Like, Doug Ford, like, he invoked the Emergency Act. He stole a lot of the convoy money. Like, he's one of the most authoritarian people during all of COVID.
DeSantis has been quite good. DeSantis's biggest flaw, and this is where I also disagree, Vivek is a smart guy, definitely. Vivek could not win. Vivek's the one guy who probably would lose if he tried to run for president. And the problem with it, DeSantis and Vivek, in my mind, are bad at campaigning for opposite reasons. Vivek is too terminally online and would get himself into a lot of trouble by basically trying to keep his Twitter numbers up. A lot of people who are really good at online politics underperform on the ground. So in Iowa, Trump was basically won as many votes as the polls said he was going to win. Same with Haley, same with DeSantis. I think they flipped a little bit, but it was just, if you looked at different polls, they were one. DeSantis was at 21, or Nikki was at 21. The other one was 18. So but Vivek was the one who was at like 13% and then came in at like 7, because Twitter support isn't real support. And if you try and follow that support base, you're going to get clobbered.
Yeah,
Ron DeSantis is bad at campaigning because he's good at the real election. Re-electing Ron DeSantis is very easy because he gets 4 years to do what he wants. Everyone's satisfied with him and they put him back into office. DeSantis, the first time around in any race, it's such a squeaker, because the thing is, he doesn't project confidence, at least in my mind. He's very he shows that he's like very focused and keen and like knows his stuff, but he doesn't like have that kind of like, hoorah kind of energy that Trump has. And that's where Trump eats his lunch when he tries to get in the same lane as Trump in an election. He should have ran like Barry Goldwater. No, I mean, he's just here to tell you how pure his policy is, rather than like his campaign taking swipes at Trump, because he just is not a charismatic enough guy to back up a punch.
Yeah, he should have ran purely on his record. Like that would have been DeSantis. Should have been just like DeSantis should have just only talked about him. Like if what he learned from Trump, he learned something from Trump, and he didn't learn another thing from Trump. He learned the value of not caving into the media and not apologizing, and standing up for your values. And like if you don't get pushed off of something, you can maintain and this sort of powered him to be able to have like one of the most free states in all of COVID, and like good for him learning that. But in terms of campaign, he didn't learn that one of the reasons why Trump was so effective is because everyone's talking about Trump. If you're all talking about Trump, Trump's going to win. Like if you're the talk of the primary, you're going to be the guy who wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
To an extent, democracies are a popularity contest, and all publicity is good publicity in some ways, right? So you go out, you start talking about Trump, you're more Trump than Trump. You frame it as Trump. Again, it's
the only one who could maybe pull that off, and he can't win because there's just too many people who don't like him, and he's been out of the news too much. The only one who had a personality to at least match Trump, but there wasn't going to be a debate, so it didn't matter, or at least a debate between the two, was Chris Christie. I actually really like Chris Christie as a politician. Yeah, he was just running against Trump to try and spite him, and it was really petty looking, and it doesn't really matter. Watch Chris Christie debate teacher union members. He's hilarious because he basically like nail guns them to the floor and makes them listen to every single reason why their argument for whatever benefit or whatever wage increase is completely stupid. And it's to the point where people just get like upset and leave the room because they don't like that Chris Christie just destroying them.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think what you need to know is Trump is back. That's all you need to know about DeSantis and Nikki Haley's presidential 2024. Chris Christie is this, like, Trump is back. We're doing Trump Biden again. Run it back, everyone. I hope he's back on Twitter. I hope we see the tweets. I hope he's yelling at Kim Jong-un. I hope he's yelling at fucking the Ayatollah. I hope the Ayatollah gets a nickname. I hope it all, get hype. The world's about to get more interesting. Like, yes, it's in chaos, but like we're gonna have a good time.
The funny thing, though, for one last comment, the funny thing with people talking about like Haley's the worst, she's like a neocon ghoul. Trump basically agrees with her on all the foreign policy stuff. It just sounds better coming
because I know Trump will do what Nikki Haley is saying. Trump will say other things, but I know he will do what Nikki Haley is saying. So that's why I'm fine with Donald Trump.
Trump's the type of guy who's like, why are we even in Afghanistan? And then if he tries to pull out, and if the Taliban even fires off a shot, he's like, nuke him, hit him with a nuke.
Yeah, there's a strategic unpredictability. Okay, so the world's going to be great. We got Trump Biden again. Will the establishment steal it? Maybe. Will they do it through the ballot box? Probably those will be watched. But like, will there be a social media psyop? Yes. We'll be here covering it. We'll all have fun. It will be a good time. All right. Speaking of fun and good times, and the thing the world needs, the World Economic Forum. Our favorite event. We couldn't go because we,
our invitation got lost in the mail.
We were
sitting on the tarmac in both Calgary and Toronto. He's like, "Where are they?" And we just didn't show.
Luckily, Javier Milei made it there to represent us and Argentina, and this is it was good. It's cathartic. It's nice that they got yelled at, but there's so much more. Like, this was a good World Economic Forum, guys. Like, even outside of Melee, this was a good one. We had I like Matt Walsh. Like, we went from like everyone's social distance to like, here's an indigenous woman to literally cough in everyone's face. We're gonna literally love it. I love it. That was great.
Want me to play that clip just so everyone knows the context?
We had more climate change. We had like new terms. We have ecocide, decocide. Like, people are bad. Climate change. We're gonna cough in your face. And then one, crazy Argentinian guy came in and knocked down all the bowling pins. And it was
Well, I want to start off with the context for you all. When Daniel is talking about an indigenous person comes in, coughs on people's faces. If you haven't seen the clip, this is what he's referring to.
Numa uno why should I?
I like the Sikh guy at the end there, and he's the only one with the "what the hell is this" on his face.
Yeah, it
people are
was
clowns.
great. Like I want that stuff. I want satanic rituals. I want them in like weird interpretive dance. Like this is what modern art was designed for. Like
Well,
if we ever needed like $1 million sculpture that looks like it was made by a 4-year-old, this is the time.
these people are just absolutely thoughtless, but they know they're the smartest people in the world. Like it's just baffling. And this even happened last year and the year before that, where they're like, and now for a musical interlude, and you think that they'd have people coming up playing some jazz, and no, it's some lady who comes up and she's like, ooh. And some guys playing like a 1-string bass, and it's like, what is going on? These people are going to destroy themselves one day because this is just insane. These people
No, I
like
like it because it's like the exhibition of the noble savage. It's like they're being humiliated by her, but also they're like it's like a weird thing where it's like they're also like this person's also like a joke too to them. Like it's like, look, we went into the jungles of Brazil and we found Waka Waka Chaka Chaka, and she's gonna come and bleed like the spirit of the wind. Everyone, look, we have a Brazilian wind spirit from like the Orient, and it was like, woo, and you're like, what the it's just like such Victorian era, like colonial, like I love it. It's so good. I love these people, right? And like because like and this was a good one because it's what we've always said. It's like, this is a joke. These people are a joke. Stop. These people don't have a 7-dimensional plan to take you out that they can implement with pinpoint accuracy. They're just
that was always the worst
communist bullshit.
That's always the worst talking point against the WEF or any organization like the UN. These people are the only consistent thing with these people is that they're incompetent. Sometimes their incompetence meshes together and they end up doing a lot of damage in the world. But it's not because there was a specific flow chart that they were all following. I think fundamentally, the reason the WF has a lot of power, it's all of its power is soft power. It's not financial, not buying anyone off. No one's a direct puppet. It's that people like Justin Trudeau is a perfect example, and Chrystia Freeland are not very smart. They are the underachievers in the class who wait for Klaus Schwab to do their homework for them. The only thing that they don't realize is Klaus Schwab also doesn't know the subject matter that the test is based on. So they get close to do their tests for them, and it's jokes on them at the end of the term when they realize they only got 40s during the entire time.
Like the most charitable interpretation of like Klaus Schwab's intelligence, because again, I've read the plan, I've read the World Economic Forum stuff, right? It's fourth age humanism or whatever it is. Like his basic argument that fourth world, whatever it is, like we've been integrated with technology, and to an extent this is true. Like, right, the development of humans, right? You see it in like my generation, right? I'm 32, a millennial who didn't grow up with technology, right? Compared my parents and like the generation that's growing up now, like interwoven with like how to work screens or whatever, does it somewhat change the neural net wiring of the human beings to have like grown up in a more technologically apt society than it did to like our grandparents' generation? And like, yes, there's some obvious truth to this, but we're pretending like this is like the deepest understanding possible. And then like, oh, because there's a shift and he understands that there's a shift in humanity, right? Therefore his prediction and world scheme must be correct.
Well, and the funniest thing, the biggest contradiction is that we're in a new age where we need new ideas. So let's use fascist style economics from Italy that helped that economy become mediocre. Like we will perpetually move ourselves forward on the power of mediocrity.
Yeah, it's plutocrats preaching to technocrats mediocrity. It's plutocrats preaching mediocrity and doom and climate change with
Well,
all
it's
the
just
ideology to tech.
it's high-mindedness. It's the
Yeah.
idea that it's not even that they don't even I don't think they even believe that their ideas are good. They definitely do not check if what they've said is true. It's just that it sounds very high-minded. That's why they have this indigenous person on stage doing something stupid. That's why all their statements are about the ecocide and whatnot. It sounds right. It has that moral kind of oomph behind it. But after a while, you just realize that there are a bunch of people who never passed their first undergrad sociology class, and that's the mindset they have.
Yeah, and like these global organizations, 10 years ago, I think had a lot more credibility. And like these are, yeah, this is the infiltrate the cabinets thing. It is true. Like when you create this sort of like this is like Harvard is the same thing as the World Economic Forum in a lot of ways, right? It's like, well, if you have this credential, right? Like in a lot of society, like
You
let's
want to
say
live up to the
stand-up
society
comedy,
that it kind of
right?
creates.
In stand-up comedy, like it's like getting on the Tonight Show is a credential that you can use to get work. And there's like different credentials that you can have. And like you're right, in the entertainment industry, like, oh, you did this festival, you did this festival, you did this festival. Oh, okay, you might speak good, you get bookings, right? Oh, you're a senior member of the World Economic Forum. Oh, you have a
Yeah.
university degree from these things. Like it was like a
Not
credential.
because, yeah, like in the terms of the comedy examples, apt in the sense it's not like comedians are being paid off by Jimmy Kimmel to suck. It's just that you have to be a sucky, unfunny, woke comedian if you hope to ever get invited on Jimmy Kimmel's show. So there's kind of a whole network, and you and Ben Bankus can probably speak to that,
Yeah.
of just unfunny, who gives a crap comedy, hoping that they'll get on like a CBC gem show someday. And you just have to have everything right in order to get it. And if you want the attention from the WEF, you want that prestige, that sort of feeling that you're one of them, you're a smart individual, well, you better pass a lot of the sort of WEF's endorsed policy in order to make it onto the stage.
Yeah, but I think where I give people hope is like a lot of what, like, to an extent there are still some gatekeepers and things you have to get in society, and to an extent you do want credentials or social proof of something, but people can break through this all the time, right? Like if you want to bring up Ben Bankus, like he has his own audience, like he made his own following and is like doing it by himself without these credentials, right? Then he got he has Fox News and all that, and he's done a lot of amazing things, but it was all like his accomplishments. Like you can still do things in the modern world. Like back 30 years ago, we could never get on TV, right? Saying the things we're saying, but now we technically can't get on TV, or at least in Canada, we can get on foreign television networks to talk about whatever we want. But in Canada, like, we don't, but we can be seen by more people than that on television. Like,
our videos get more stuff than like the live version of the CBC National on YouTube.
Yeah.
After an entire day, there's like 1,000 people who watched it. I know that's just the YouTube version, but considering their reach and their subscriber base, just nobody watches this garbage. The CBC already ratcheted down its estimated audience capture in the country to an average of only 3.8 or 3.6, down from like 4.2, and 4.2 is not a lot.
Yeah, and like how frequently are they watching? Are they like religious news watchers? Like there's people that's baked in.
I
Like,
think it's like per week that they have at least 3.6 or 3.8% of like viewers in Canada so choose to watch the CBC for some amount of time, which is like, man, like that's like one and out of, if you walked up to houses at 7 p.m. and you knocked on 100 doors, that's like one person was watching the CBC.
Yeah, and it's like that's like one of the free channels, and we invest all the things in it. Like, yeah, and then you even add that with CTV. Yeah, and then you have like CTV Global, like this. Yeah, no one watches this stuff anymore. Like, well, a lot of people do, but like, not a lot of people do. Okay, okay. Our point is, okay, my point back to the World Economic Forum. Let's tie this to the actual topic. Is what I'm happy with though is we've said like the validity of the globalists, the World Economic Forum, right, is to be seen as this credential, right? It's like Harvard, right? Oh, someone has a Harvard degree, that's impressive. But it's less impressive now when the president of Harvard went on and said, killing Jews isn't that bad. Sometimes you can kill the Jews, and then it's fine to scream about killing Jews. Like that's kind of cool. And then turns out she plagiarized everything. She was a diversity hire. She wasn't qualified. Harvard, right? So now when you think of Harvard, it's not this super pristine, Harvard. Like there's a chink in that armor. Right. And Harvard will suffer because of that, because they can't sell, right? They sell their reputation the highest value. And that's the World Economic Forum, is they sell reputation. Right. So when people like I was
fear-mongering about the
people off
WEF
of
was
like
never
being
worth it, because trying to make people scared of the WEF actually gives the WEF more soft power, because the idea is that they're scary because they must be sophisticated, when really you just want to show all of their weird music they play and all of the weird little indigenous rituals they have on stage. That's what you want to show to the average person, and they're like, oh, well, that's really the worst crime you can commit other than genocide on this planet is being cringe. And the WEF is extremely cringe when you watch it or read any of their materials. Don't read Klaus Schwab's book and find the things that sound scary if they were implemented. They're not going to be implemented. He's incompetent. Make fun of him for calling one of his plans Project Syndicate, because it's hilarious. Project Syndicate.
We'll get used to come into Project Syndicate like Greta Thunberg. Like, yeah, you see, Greta, trees good, Jews bad. This is globalism, right? I gotta like I had this thought, like I think a weird like indicator of like people who like either you get this or you don't, but I think this accurately like is a part of the globalism thing. If you hate plastic straws and like the people behind them, like you hate globalists. I'm sorry, if you hate paper straws, right? Like the paper straw, plastic straw thing, that is an issue of globalism. Like that's where globalism affects you. When people are like, what is globalism? And like you don't have time to be like, okay, like there's a technocracy and there's a bureaucracy. I think what accurately defined would be like, where do you on paper or plastic straws? Because anyone who hates the globalists like knows why paper straws are ridiculous and kind of understands the pushback and would kind of get that analogy.
I do
anyone
like that.
who loves like the paper straws, they're like, no, they're saving the world for the turtles. I'm saving turtles. Would be like
not realizing it took 10 times the energy to make that paper straw over the plastic straw.
Yeah,
that's manufacturing. It's not taking all the wood that you need to get and then like all the chemicals you need to treat it so it doesn't immediately disintegrate.
Yeah, I know, like, yeah. So the people who understand and like you can talk to about they're reasonable people. I think that you can like talk to, feel them out on like the globalist issue. I think it's the paper straw, plastic straw issue. I think this is a globalist thought of the day. Like I had a family member message me about like paper straws being put in places, and it's like this is like that's I think that's the defining thing. Okay. Okay.
Maybe we should go to the Javier Milei clip just so I want to play this because that's the thing because I think when I first saw people saying that Javier was coming, I immediately went to Twitter because there's going to be a bunch of idiots who are going to be like, oh, he's already bought by them and look at like, wait, do you think the man swinging a chainsaw is going to show up and play ball? They probably, I guarantee you the dumbasses at the WEF assumed he was going to show up and play ball. No. This is Wolfman.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Today, I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger. And it is endangered because those who are supposed to have to defend the values of the West are co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism and thereby to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-meaning individuals willing to help others, and others motivated by the wish to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world. Rather, they are the root cause. Do believe me, no one better placed than us, Argentines, to testify to these 2 points.
And I guarantee the vast majority of the room there actually probably agrees with him. It's just that they're incentivized not to care.
Yeah.
And 100% like the world, or at least the WEF's world, is truly caught a sickness of believing that every single problem can be righted by a government bureaucrat in some office somewhere with the correct regulations put into place. It's like
competent bureaucracy and competent technocrats who've been trained properly through the systems that are internationally recognized through blah 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 blah. Let's have an ESG score. Blah blah blah. Like it's it's the, you know,
I
that's global.
effectively, officially now have my master's degree in public policy, and I can tell you, if someone says they have a master's degree in public policy, like they're probably dumb. They're probably not smart. If they gave me one, you don't have to be that intelligent to get it. But overall, I had people in like my first day in the MPP program. These are supposed to be very smart individuals. A lot of them super nice people, very smart. Well, actually, there was quite a bit of conservatives in it because it was a Calgary MPP program. But like their first day, someone got mad at me in the class because I said that with a lot of the homeless people on the streets, you can't just give them a pamphlet at their tent and say, hey, do you want to, stop using fentanyl and become a productive person? It's not going to work. So I said that literally any one of them, this is why decriminalizing drug use and loitering and all these different things and camping is bad, because it doesn't give the police an ability to arrest them, to be able to take them into prison so they can detox them and do a bunch of other stuff. And I literally had a girl get mad at me and then say that, well, you're stigmatizing homelessness, and the first thing we need to do in order to get people off the street is destigmatize the fact they're homeless. Whoa, wow, I didn't know that. We were supposed to
it's the stigmas. The stigmas are getting at
at
people, and I remember university. Yeah, we had that. I mean, how could anyone do anything with the stigma lurking around? You got to destigmatize this.
All these people on the streets who are like freezing to death and dying of fentanyl overdoses. It's like the COVID thing. We'll rewrite why they died. They died of a stigma. They died of this man. This man felt bad about his life, and that's why he did fentanyl more.
A lot of people dying
he
of
was actually
stigma.
just about to turn the corner, and he was like, cleaning himself. He got out of the tent, dusts himself off. He'd say, you know what? I'm gonna hit up one of those, the dream center. I'm going to go figure out a place I can detox. And then he walks down the street. He's like putting his shoes back on, and he sees someone saying, you know what? The homeless are really dirty. And he's like, you know what?
I can't handle
solidarity. I'm going to go back and do more fentanyl to spite that man. I know what's good for me, but despite him, I'm going to get back in this tent and, shoot heroin into between my toes. That's what I'm going to do. When we start to try and like put law, and again, this is totally connected to the WEF. People who believe are hyper logical in an illogical way. They think that their own logic is how the world works. Is that if only people thought more like them, it's the type of people who, whenever they see someone stealing, they're like, well, he must be trying to feed his family, because the only reason that they could think of to ever actually steal was that if they were so desperate they needed food. That's how you get a lot of these WF people.
Everyone is Aladdin. Just running around with his pet monkey, like trying to impress the princess and save the world.
That's the WEF and the UN when it comes to terrorism. Well, they had to rape and murder all those people because they're upset. They were upset. Mad.
Stigma. There was a stigma on them. How could they not become terrorists?
If you destigmatize beheadings, maybe they wouldn't do them so much.
Yeah, that's what it is. We need to destigmatize
They're just in the punk rock phase
of heads off, because a lot of people are doing the head chopping and they're getting criticized, and this is Islamophobia, and that leads to stigma, and that's why everyone's dying of fentanyl. So good thing we have Davos to set us straight. And
speaking of Davos, I want to take a trip one last time back to Switzerland. Was it in Switzerland? I think so. I just want to go over to tie it a little bit closer to home in Canada. I want to go over this clip of Chrystia Freeland at the WEF talking about decarbonizing and the future of Canada's economy. This is going to be used.
Torture me.
Yeah, this is going to be used in the next election as just a conservative ad. They'll basically.
Okay, one, I want a comment below. I think you can know what I would pick is, but would you rather sit there and listen to Chrystia Freeland talk to you seriously about whatever it is she's about to say, or waterboarding? That's
food for thought while we're watching.
Yes.
Right now, we're living through a moment which is comparable only to the Industrial Revolution itself, in terms of the energy transition and the way we need to retool all of our manufacturing. That is huge. Canada's strategy, Borge, is to say, look at these two trends and let's see how we can use them to play to Canada's strengths. And our view is there's a lot that Canada can offer to the world in this moment. We have the critical minerals and metals that you need to build a green economy. We have a lot of clean energy. 85% of our grid is already clean, and we are investing heavily in building more clean energy. We are a country that believes in manufacturing, has manufacturing know-how and capacity. And then you guys spoke about industrial policy. The thing that is new about industrial policy is
new. Okay.
Well, that to pause her for a second there. I hate this crap. Oh, everything's different now.
Everything's different now. Listen, industry
manufacturing's different. This is the biggest time since the Industrial Revolution.
Have been faced with the concept of industry and expansion since the Industrial Revolution, because industry was invented in the Industrial Revolution, and there's like so much industry there. And then we need like new industry, and like you don't even know. And like in Canada, it's
we take it very seriously. That's why we subsidize it all.
But it's like, it's one, highly subsidized, and two, it's laundered. It's not clean. It's all coal and natural gas, but it's laundered through a windmill. It's basically, we're doing everything we need to do, but we're not doing it in Canada. We're letting countries that hate us do the oil and natural gas. We're giving to it. We're then using the natural gas to power our green energy and moving that energy through the windmills and the solar panels into your houses at highly subsidized, insane rates. And then we're calling it clean because, yes, it was green. Look, the wind thing it's turning. Look, it's turning. Yeah, with Krista Freeland and is literally 4 years old. She's a 4-year-old girl, and she's running around and she's going, look, Justin, look, it's spinning. And he's going, yes, Krista, that's where energy comes from. That's how we save the world. And then she goes, woo, I'm saving the world. And then it's cute because she's prancing around in a little dress. And then we put her in front of the World Economic Forum to Christy, what did you do today? Well, and this is what we have to listen to.
Well, and the thing, this is why we need to ban Model UN in high schools and universities. It teaches people to talk so stupid about policy. Everything's big. We're in a transition. We're doing stuff. Things are changing. No, it isn't. It's going to be tomorrow is going to be a lot like today. But these people only run off of the idea that everything must change tomorrow because we're in the period of growth and change. The thing with the Industrial Revolution was
everyone knows. Yeah.
There was no government mandate to make the Industrial Revolution go. And these people think that taxing people into the floor to try and make them adopt inefficient technologies is the new Industrial Revolution because it's a big time full of big ideas.
Okay. Yeah, this is no one's the new thing about industrial policy. I think we're there. So, guys, industrial policy is new. We did it in the 1900s. You might not remember that, but then no one did industry for a while until Krista Freeland. So, listen to world-renowned expert on industry.
How is industry changing? Well, we're forcing you to use crappy energy. That's what makes
don't put words in her mouth. I'm sure she has a brilliant solution. I'm sure all our problems are about to be solved in the next 50 seconds.
We are developing our economies, growing our economies at a time when we also need to accomplish the green transition. And I spoke yesterday to a very significant international business leader who is also a big investor in Canada. And he said to me, all the countries in the world need to be very careful that decarbonization does not mean deindustrialization. I thought that was an extremely smart comment, and Canada is absolutely determined that decarbonization for us will mean more jobs, more growth, more manufacturing, and we recognize government needs to play a role to make that happen.
I feel like more of a politician after that.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the worst of Donald. Like, it was like, it started out pretty Trumpy, but like in a bad, annoying, like, this chick sucks type of way. Where it was like, I talked to if Trump was doing the thing like, I talked to someone, a very smart person. He told me that my ideas are great. He said they're very great, and he's a really smart guy. And he said I was great. A very smart man said I was great because he was very smart. Like, at least Trump, it's honest when he does it, and he'll like tell you, and it's like, it's fun, and like it's a little bit like little insane, and like he's joking, but he's not joking. With Krista Freeland, it's.
Well, I think she's moving. That's why I think she's moving. It's like it's very robotic. I think she's trying to, she's doing this with her hands like she's a hamster trying to generate some electricity.
So I know someone even too elite for Davos. I know you're all here. Maybe some of you in the room would know him, but I'm actually good friends with him when we speak on the phone. And he said, Christian, why would let's think this one through. Like, why would this guy be on the phone trying to remind Chrystia Freeland to hey, make sure people don't think about the fact that you're ruining the economy. Like, you got to deal with the fact that this is ruining the economy. And if you talk about it, it's like, she's a communist. Like, we're gonna have this green shift. I'm not a communist. I believe in science and the world. Fuck off.
This reminds me of the Justin Burroughs guy when he said that I was approached by an organization trying to push against Bill C-18 and they offered me thousands of dollars. And it's just like, I hate when politicians do these fake stories where, to be Chrystia Freeland for a second. Well, I was called up the other day by a guy who's a big business leader, and he called me up and said, Chrystia, we need to transition. There's something called the fourth industrial revolution happening right now, and it's important. How's Canada going to move forward in such a big time of change? Should I be scared? And I told him, no, you actually, in fact, shouldn't be scared. Innovative things are happening. There's a lot of change. Canada's been at the forefront of this project to make our grids cleaner and to make society more conscious of the environment. And it just is like, what is the story? This is not a phone call that ever took place. This
is my mom trying to tell a story. And my mom's a great woman. Okay. My mom is a competent, type A doctor lady, but she cannot tell a story. This is not her strong suit.
Whenever my mom tells me the plot of a movie, it is so much more dramatic than the actual movie.
Then that's at least a drama is good. Like, that's at least engaging. That makes her a better storyteller than my mother. My mother usually starts in the middle and then goes back, does the settings, and then spoils a bit of the ending, then go to the beginning, and then we get the story somehow. Maybe someone should interject. Okay. Anyway,
College of Psychiatrists.
College of Psychiatrists, yes. Okay. Jordan B. Peterson, he's gonna, he's dying on a hill.
In a good way.
In a good way. And the way I see it is they're gonna try and force him to go to mandatory re-education camp. I think he's trying to test them and be like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And then let's see what happens.
I think he, in a certain sense, wants to undergo it because he wants to be able to mock them for how stupid it is in the aftermath. Because that's what he's pushing for. I guarantee he finds a way to secretly record the entire thing and just watches how, so we can hear how ridiculous it is that when you're online, Jordan, you have to message people before you tweet about them, DM them, ask them what their pronouns are, ask what adjectives they'd like to be referred to with, beautiful, kind, all this other stuff. The entire case was ridiculous because I think you and I both know there's so many people who are professionals, who are from professional organizations, who actively put what all their certifications are on their Twitter profiles. It's usually a very liberal person when they tell you what all their degrees and certifications are, who are fairly nasty people on Twitter. I do not want them removed. They can do whatever they want on social media. No professional organization in Canada has ever gone after them. But with Jordan, they bent over backwards because he made what at most would be a rude tweet. That now disqualifies him from being able to treat patients who voluntarily, even though he doesn't actually work professionally as a psychologist anymore. So, people voluntarily pick their psychologist. What is it? Was someone who already is voluntarily seeing him going to freak out?
Yeah, Jordan Peterson has a lot of different ways he can play this, right? He can do the I'm not doing it, and then do a psychology session with someone to spite the college and make them look ridiculous. Listen, the more people are forced to talk about things like this, the more people get sort of woken up to his the postmodern neo-Marxists, which critical race theorists, whatever you want to call them. He can move the needle there. So Jordan Peterson will get attention. He dies in he'll be dying on a hill. We'll see how he does it. We'll cover it. I'm always down for a good last stand. or
I think
stand
it's
on
been
something.
giving a good insertion point for the conservatives to go after these sorts of organizations and to call them out, because
Yeah.
the problem, and this is my thing on immigration, the reason why the conservatives had not spoken about immigration until like a week ago was because there was no centering issue to talk about it with. You could just
Yeah.
say there's a lot of immigrants, but you don't want to mimic the rhetoric of the PPC, because then you're going to be associated with every uncareful comment by some PPC official. And they're not wrong to call it mass immigration, perfectly fine. But they waited until the report came out that Sean Fraser, when he was the immigration minister, was told, please stop bringing in, by his own staff, by the own experts within the government. They're saying, please slow down immigration. It is destroying the housing market. And now he is the housing minister. So then when that was released, it was an amazing insertion point for Pierre Poilievre to insert himself in the situation and say, maybe we should have less immigrants so people can actually afford a home. That was what they were effectively doing. And with Jordan Peterson in this scenario, because of the corruption of these different boards and these different sort of extrajudicial kind of bodies we have, it gives the conservatives a great way of criticizing them without, seeming like they're
Making
sticking their fingers in places they shouldn't
listen,
be.
right? Because there is a thing to it, like, this is the reason why I would get kicked out of the Conservative Party on day one, is because, I just start ranting about the commies and going hard, like, not in like the Maxime Bernier way to gain attention, but I'd be going like, okay, we're in office, like this, immigration too high, just bring it down. But okay, you get smacked on this. It's, can you do a soft, like, listen, I didn't think the conservatives were not going to distinguish themselves from the liberals on immigration in the election, and people like, it was always going to be a thing that you're going to have to be patient on, like knowing the election comes up in 25, like you're not going to endear people, right, by starting off out of the gate yelling about immigrants, right? You got to yell about things that drive the needle forward, like positively in Canada, like things are unaffordable, economics, housing, right? Where Poilievre was very good, and like inflation and like hitting Trudeau, and like this is how Justin Trudeau's carbon tax and inflation and the Justin Trudeau economic mindset destroys your life. Like this has been the centering thing to drive the conservatives forward. And there are all these other cultural things. The hope is that you can get a Poilievre party there by 2025, and then moving forward into that. Like, and
this is where sometimes I don't feel like people understand politics, especially those who run the PPC, or at least they pretend not to, is that you have to, like a lot of politics is sort of moving inches down the field, building a coalition that you can actually handle pushing a piece of policy. Every once in a while, when things boil over, a Javier Milei, he's doing everything he wants, but he's built up the political capital in order to do so. The thing is that there's a reason why Bernier can't just pull off the same trick that Javier is, because the environment, the social attitudes towards government are not the same that we can sit around talking about, that we're the real conservative party and everyone else is a globalist and stuff like that. It's not like.
But also, Melee is fundamentally different than Maxime Bernier on like the populisty issues, where like Bernier would go, like
why are we
Melee
talking about Israel? Screw Israel. And
like Melee is
is
pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine, and pro-Israel because he's a West. He believes in Western civilization and fighting communism, and he's not an idiot. Like he remembers that the Soviet Union and it was the Russians have spent so much money. You see like Qatar, but in destroying our institutions to push this communist nonsense. Like, where do you think that comes from? It comes from, and Putin's an ex-KGB agent. Like, let's not rewrite history and pretend Russia was this base capitalistic Western civilization.
Even right now, do you think that it's one of those things where I want to start a restaurant on this little corner? I'm just going to do that. Russia is not a great place to start a business. It's not because, they're kind of authoritarian when it comes to like the military or something like that. No, it's because it's like a socialist government when it comes to everything in the country, and the government takes a piece of everything that you do in Russia because it's an oligarchy. It is that unless you are a favored business within the government, you do not get a lot of rights.
Some of the old aristocracy made it back in, and some of the new mafia made it into this, and it's like policy control. Like that's what Russia. Like Russia's not a free market, free beacon thing, and that's why their economy sucks. And the thing like. So Melee also like believes it. Like Melee, like that is an authentic. Like he's wielding a chainsaw, talking about fighting the commies. Like Maxime Bernier is never like that. Like listen, when we interviewed Maxime Bernier, he needed the questions beforehand, right? Like I've like, and I remember Bernier in 2017 something for him. Like I remember like asking him his position on the Jordan Peterson. Like speaking of Jordan Peterson, I remember asking him about Jordan Peterson and Bill
18.
C-16 when this was going
Oh,
hot.
yeah, Bill.
And he was running it. So this is the big original Jordan Peterson thing going viral. And I asked him about this when he was running for leader of the Conservative Party. And he didn't really know what it was. And then I explained, he's like, oh, it's a free speech thing. I'm like, yeah, it's a free speech thing. He's like, oh, then I support it. Free speech is good. But like, okay.
There's this idea too that Bernier is buying into. And the thing is, I sometimes will judge Bernier by the standards that he lays out for himself, but politicians do not have to emerge fully formed. That if someone's not fantastic on an issue, it doesn't mean they're corrupt or they're bad. Bernier, and a lot of PPC people got mad at me for saying this, that in 2017, when he was running for leadership, he did not have a clear position on the carbon tax because he is someone who's thinking maybe in the mindset of a libertarian. Well, it's kind of like a carbon. Basically, it only applies to people who are going to technically create emissions. So maybe that is a bit of a more of a better market way of doing it rather than just increasing taxes. It's a bad idea. The carbon tax is still bad. But he was thinking it through, and I'm fine with people for thinking it through. He used to be far more pro-free trade with China. He was like the number one guy in Ottawa for the longest time in promoting open free trade with no restrictions with China. Obviously, for national security reasons, that's not a good idea. But even now, his party's actually kind of moving him more in a protectionist direction. And I'll have people tell me, no, Bernier's still pro-free trade. I dare him to post that he's fully pro-free trade at all times, other than like national security issues. His people will attack him because I even pitched it to PPC people that the party is no longer pro-free trade. I literally had someone comment back to me, and they were a PPC influencer. It wasn't just some random guy. And he says, well, that was before we knew how toxic free trade was.
Yeah, what do they get? What are the founding principles of the PPC? Like, I remember the founding principles of the PPC, and they've been like Salim Mansour wrote their foreign policy their first year. Like, actually, their first year, their foreign policy is pretty good. And they didn't touch on it, but it was like basically, the Trumpian type of stuff, like, our allies are our allies, our enemies are our enemies. Radical Islam is a problem.
Crack down on terrorism.
We got to be like terrorists exist, Khalistanis, Islamists, communists. Like, there's bad ideas, Western civilization, good, right? And we should confront that. Like, that was their founding foreign policy. And now they've gone away from philosophically like where they've been in 2017, chasing different social issues.
That's the contradictory thing is they're very populist and they're always kind of jumping around onto different issues. At the same time, if you don't show up on the scene 100% or at least very close to that, on side with them on a lot of issues, well, you must be corrupt. This is not to go back to it too much. This is what always frustrated me, even though I probably agree with them on a lot of stuff. This is what frustrated me with the Vivek attacks on Nikki Haley. That, Nikki Haley has a more active view of foreign policy, that America, when ISIS, when the Houthis are creating trouble in Yemen, that maybe it's a good idea for the U.S. to strike them to protect shipping. And Vivek would take her out of context. Oh, blah blah. You're some sort of whatever. It's so annoying. It's just obnoxious to me after a while that people are like, because she's not on side with everything. I have tons of criticisms of tons of American and Canadian politicians. Some of them I have criticisms for. I still like them. I disagree with Michael Chong on a bunch of stuff. I disagree with Melissa Lantsman on some stuff. I disagree with Michelle Rempel-Gardner definitely with a bunch of stuff. But I could at least work with them. And I'm shameless plug. I'm running for the Calgary Signal Hill nomination. I'm not going to subject Daniel to me like pitching it too much.
I'll do Patches gave us a super chat for the progressive algorithm. How dare the progressive algorithm not notify me your live stream now 50 minutes behind time to speed. They can handle it. They watch Ben Shapiro and Destiny, a man with the girl's name, by the way. I agree. Destiny is kind of a girl's. It is a kind of a stripper name for Destiny, but I like Destiny as a creature on the internet, as an internet character, which Destiny is. I do like the character that is Destiny. Like, I don't agree with him. Like, he's a lefty, and but he's like a center left. Someone needs to be that. Like, he's the center left, argumentative, intellectual. Like, filling the. Let's to quote Jordan Peterson. He's a good archetype. He's the archetype of the left wing. Blah blah blah. Like, he's a bit of a left wing Jamaica architect, old school liberal. I like the character. What do you think?
I like Cenk Uyghur too. Like, Cenk Uyghur, especially the policy, disagree with him vehemently. He can be dumb as a rock on stuff. I still like Cenk Uyghur on like a personal level. Again, disagree with him all the time. I like watching him in debates to see him lose. I also don't hate him in any way. And that's, again, in politics, you have to not start doing this person's a globalist and this person's like a patriot. It's really not how it works half the time. And really, you want people you can work with and you can actually get stuff done. And I find sometimes you get people who are too populist, who they're like, all these people aren't 100% on side. Well, I'm just going to go bury my head in the sand for 8 more years, and then I'm going to finally get fired up about politics again for about 5 minutes until everyone's not going my way. It's like, it's just not how it works. I've been in so many meetings. I was actually in a meeting where it's for the Signal Hill thing, but someone was like, well, do you think that we should actually be trying people for their crimes during COVID and because they had the lockdowns and they were enforcing mandates? He was literally saying, do you think people should be executed? And I'm like, no. And guess what? If you actually pursue this line of continuing to talk about COVID and going after all the COVID villains for the next 4 years, you're going to wonder why on a bunch of other areas of policy, everything sucks more because you were too busy chasing your tail on something stupid that you can't actually correct anything for. It's just a revenge play. What are you going to do about taxes? You're not focusing on reducing taxes or parental rights or, trying to get rid of all these stupid environmental regulations, destroying the economy, getting rid of the subsidies for EV factories. You're not doing any of that stuff. And you're going to wonder, why is the economy so much more inflated and why does everything sucks more? It's because you're focused on dumb stuff. And it's not that the mandate and lockdown issue is dumb. It's dumb 2 years removed from it being important.
Yeah, it's that, and like, yeah, you're chasing the tail. Like, listen, we were there covering the convoy. I was there on the ground with the convoy. I did my time. I believe in the convoy. I quite publicly, we both put our fingers on the scale during the times of COVID to end the COVID nonsense. And part of fighting that continued COVID nonsense is to realize where it has evolved to and what are what do you ever call them? Globalist, technocrats, neo-Marxists, critical race. Where are they? What are they trying to do now? Because they took those COVID powers and how they're trying to apply it. Like, if you spend your entire time trying to arrest Dr. Fauci or Theresa Tam, think of all the political capital you're using. That's such an uphill climb. And then let's think of the amount of time you would need to invest in getting Dr. Theresa Tam executed for crimes against humanity, at The Hague.
It's honestly fantasy politics. That all politics is about. It's honestly kind of like communist China style stuff in the sense that we don't take issues seriously. We just struggle against people who are the bad ones, and we never actually get anything done. And we just
listen.
Struggle.
It's a fun thing. If you're in the shower, instead of singing a Taylor Swift song,
people don't like.
Listen, if you're in the shower and instead of singing a Taylor Swift song when you're doing whatever, you're there in the shower and you're putting Anthony Fauci or Theresa Tam on trial, you're the Hague and you're the prosecutor, do that. That's a much more, have fun with that. Get it out. It's a nice fantasy, nice thing to think of. All the doctors and people who, lied and the thing and the president of this, all the people who maliciously lied for if they were to actually okay, that's a fun shower thought.
Alyssa's just right. There's no early election.
Yeah, there's no early election, guys.
People are like, the NDP appointed a new head of election readiness. Yeah, probably because the last guy left because they weren't paying him or something like that. The NDP broke.
Yeah.
But again, I wanted to show you something because Canuck, what was her name? Lady Brit Canuck sent me something amazing that you will love. So I'm going to show it on screen quickly. It will surprise you. It will shock you. It might even make you undergo a transcendent experience. Elizabeth May is on hunger strike for Gaza.
I saw this.
I have looked at it. It is not a parody account. Yeah, it is not a parody account. Doesn't say it. You can even tell by the people following her. This is a long time account. People have been following. So yeah, Gaza hunger strike. Elizabeth May, are you now going to disown Israel because Elizabeth May is going to hurt herself? Are you okay?
This is.
Has your faith in Israel been shaken by Elizabeth May's cankles?
Yeah, hunger strikes. One, it's not going to be a dry hunger strike. I know she doesn't have the will. This isn't a real give me freedom or give me death type thing. This is I want cameras and there's gonna be drinks and saline and doctors are gonna monitor me to make sure I can continue to go as long as
day 1.5. She's gonna be faint.
For guys, listen, I want to see her do 100 days of sobriety for Omar Carter.
Yeah, no NyQuil for 30 days, and then
she'll live up
or
box
else
one.
Israel.
She will.
Yeah,
We
but
should. Well, let's get
this is the
hammered.
thing.
You know what
That
we
is the
should do?
green. The PPC needs to not become the the right-wing version of the Green Party. Just stupid, weird side issues that nobody else is talking about, but you're too hardcore not to talk about them. And I mean, oh goodness, that's the funny thing. The PPC guys, I know I keep going back to it. It's not. I don't have much of a chip on my shoulder. I just need to talk things over because if I don't feel out every little inch of the issue, it just like haunts me. But like the idea that like the PPC guys are like, who cares about foreign policy? All I hear them talk about is foreign policy and why they don't care about it.
Yeah,
But
like you're right. It's like the PPC spends a lot more time criticizing and like dunking on people for like these guys talk about foreign policy, but not Canada. And you're like, yeah, you could walk and chew gum, but like shipping in the Red Sea affects Canada, guys. Like we ship things to places and like the olive oil and global supply markets. Like we're part of a global supply market. That's the globe. You know the globe where Earth is. Canada's on Earth. So things that do affect the planet Earth do affect us too.
The Houthis hijacking ships affect that free trade thing you pretend to care about.
Infinite amount of time complaining about the World Economic Forum. What is that if not like a foreign issue? Like it's foreign cultural policy, sure. And like I don't belittle you for saying, we need to talk about the negative impacts of the World Economic Forum. I'm with you there. Right. But like you can't pretend that like, the World Economic Forum is so stupid, do that. But like, and then be like, yeah, but like we're just gonna shut ourselves off from like
Canadians shouldn't even be taking a stand on Israel. That was the funny thing with Maxime Bernier on the issue. No one was saying that we need to send money because really Canada doesn't really have a substantial amount of money to give Israel or Ukraine. That's the kind of the dumb thing with us even giving money to Ukraine.
Yeah, but why are we taking a stance on anything?
Also, here's the thing. Someone pointed out.
Compass? Like this is why I fucking hate the PPC. Is because this isn't Canadian values. You lunatics. Like why should we have an opinion on anything or any more countries? This is the neo-Marxist bullshit. This is the fatalistic cultural relativist bullshit. Why should Canada have a right to be saying things about anything in the world? Because we're fucking better than Tonga and Equatorial Guinea and Ethiopia and Somalia and friggin' like Pakistan and
the idea is that we're a colonialist power and we the only thing we put into the world is toxicity, but it's like from the populist side of things that all we are is a woke garbage country, and us flying our flag anywhere is a sign of wokeness. Okay, is there too many woke people in the Canadian government? 100%. Also, we're a little bit better than Iran, or at least the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, like we need some Afwaya. Like the PPC is right in a way. Like I know what you want. You want Maxime Bernier to come in and be like, Ministry of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Avoya! I want that too, okay? I want that. If I was the Prime Minister of Canada, you would get that. But it's not going to happen here, right? And we got to see it in Argentina. That's nice. But like, can we like do as much Afueying as possible? So we're not going to get like 100% Afueya. Can I go for 99%? Like, let's push for the most thing there. But like again, the PPC is just like it's just the reflection of the left-wing rhetoric. It's like anti-left. It's the anti-left. It's just like taking this left-wing bullshit and being like, yeah, it's bullshit.
Well, it's like witch hunters or something like that. In the sense that they have to. You and I both disagree with Melissa Lantsman on a few issues. Also, it's not really useful because you could find issues you disagree with anyone on. It's not useful for us to say, hey, she was in favor of UBI back in 2019 or something like that. Let's talk about that for 20 minutes. Who cares? And again, even with her UBI thing with the PPC people going after her UBI thing is like the Milton Friedman negative income tax. We could get rid of a bunch of welfare programs by having UBI. I disagree with the program because they would just throw welfare programs right back onto it, and it's going to be impossible to actually to be able to convince the welfare infrastructure to dismantle itself.
Like, listen, there is listen, this is where you can clip me on this, but like, listen, you're right. There is this philosophical technicality where like, yes, UBI is actually not as bad as all the welfare we have now. So if we were to remove all the welfare and social programs, all these billions of spending, we're just to remove that completely.
And just give everyone $20,000.
There's a standard UBI, like everyone gets like $2,000 a month. Okay. Just everyone gets $2,000 a month across the board. It's just the standard UBI. No this, no this, no this, no this, no this. Like, then it's like, okay, yeah, actually this is more efficient. It is cheaper. Like, okay.
100%. But it is the one ring of power in terms of a government program.
UBI.
It is the one ring of power that nobody can handle.
Yeah. It's about we're not talking about that hypothetical best case scenario UBI in this.
Yeah, I'll go to the other super chat here. Patch Dress again, another super chat for Wyatt's Defense Fund and Daniel stand-up side job. Thank you. Does TNT cover exclusively Canadian matters or cover shenanigans occurring outside of the Dominion? Oops, I'm now canceled for colonialist words. Well, Daniel is our resident person who covers stuff that's not within the country's borders. So just today he has the story about, and maybe this is a good transition to talk about it. The Islamic Republic of Iran, the Islamic regime in Iran, is fighting with the terror state that is the Pakistani government.
Both officially Islamic republics. Both call themselves Islamic republics. You got the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they're fighting each other.
The number 1 and 2 funders of terrorism, actually no, number 2 and 3 behind Qatar are fighting.
No, 1 and 2. Like Qatar spends a lot of money, but like I give Pakistan and Iran extra bonus
more
funds.
direct
They do
like
set up,
militia groups.
they do have actual terrorist training camps and train terrorists and supply the weapons. Qatar just funds a lot of money and spends more money on the Muslim Brotherhood in North America and all that, and in your schools maybe the Muslim Brotherhood probably spends Qatar probably spends more money at Harvard, Yale, Johns Hopkins than maybe Iran does right now. But they have actual terrorist training camps. In Canada, we have terrorist training camps. Those are funded by Pakistan, and those are Californians. And that's why India's mad at us, because we have literal terrorist training camps, training people how to go into India and kill Hindu and Indian government ministers and then come back. So that causes a bit of problems with the world, and people don't like it. But yeah, Iran and Pakistan are fighting, and I put a video out. So if you want a full breakdown of that particular thing, there's a video on the channel. I can give
it's the last thing posted on the TNT channel. If you're watching
if you want a fun world, thing right now, Ethiopia was smart enough to invade Somalia. Right now, no one's going to talk about this. This is a pretty clever play by the Ethiopians here. You might be able to use this as a party and sound smart. But Ethiopia. Okay, what you need to know is they're landlocked, right? We got the map here. Ethiopia is landlocked. You think it touches the sea now, but that's Eritrea, and that's black North Korea. The Eritreans and North Koreans, so the Ethiopians and the Eritreans, they had a civil war in the 90s. There's a lot of East Africans here, so they don't like each other anymore because Ethiopia went communist and they fought against the communists with the other subfaction that they had a war with again. Those the Tigray region, whatever. But Ethiopia wants access to a port because they're in Africa and they're a country, and you need to get things to ports and the sea. It's on the Red Sea. Exactly. So forever they've wanted port access, and they've been, right? And Eritrea is just, again, it's black North Korea. It's so unstable. It's run by a dictatorship that hates Ethiopia. So they're not giving them access to the port. And then Somalia is friggin' pirate land. So they decided to, you know what? Everyone's talking about Jews right now and Ukraine. So we're just going to go into Somaliland, which, again, Somalia is a clusterfuck because it's just a bunch of different tribes fighting each other. But up here, you got Somaliland, right, near Djibouti. And Ethiopia is basically trying to work out some sort of annexation or separation deal where they could get economic access to a port city and then get their goods to market. And they figure now's a good time to do that. So if you want some overall thing, will the Ethiopians successfully leverage local Somalis tribes against each other to maintain some sort of port access, or will the Somalian people finally unite under one Somali tribe and fight off the invaders, the Ethiopians? Find out next month on the only person who will tell you about this war. There you go.
Okay, third one from Patch Dress. I don't want anti-left. I want pro-Canada, which is consequently anti-left. Is that unrealistic? I'd say that you're making a key difference there when you say that, Patch, is that being just pro-Canadian, being actually conservative in a real way, that's not, even though it's anti-left, it's not just being reactionary and saying I'm taking positions against whatever the current thing is on the left.
Yeah.
The current thing on the left most of the time is stupid. But when you just frame yourself in opposition to whatever the left's in favor of, you end up taking a lot of dumb positions just to prove that you're hardcore and you're not gonna, I'm not gonna be tricked into supporting anything that the left supports. So that's when you get a bunch
and
they
set the tempo then politically. They get to drive the narrative.
Yeah.
It's a losing strategy. So I'm not saying don't be against the left. I'm against most left with things. We'll break down critical race theory and explain why it's bad, but you have to stand for something. You have to be this is why something is good. Yes, you should be against the left and their agenda, but then you should have something that you can sell on and be here's why Canada is good and conservative values is good. Here's what we stand for. Not just whatever they say, we're going to fight them. Because eventually you have to
Here's
get in
a
power,
great
and then you
example.
have to do things.
Here's a great example. Have you kind of followed Josh Alexander on social media a little bit?
A little bit. I tried not to follow. Like I've seen some of
I
his
don't
stuff,
actually follow him. Like I just sort of see his stuff pop up every once in a while.
Yeah.
Guy opposing his woke Catholic school district, whatnot. He gets kicked out of class for something stupid. He says there's two genders, so he gets kicked out of class. Very dumb. He opposes gender theory, gets kicked out. Rather than sticking around his school district and making a difference, trying to get those people kicked off the board, maybe having they don't have recall legislation in Ontario, fair enough, but organizing Good Canada's door knocking, getting people involved, getting rid of all the woke people off the Catholic school board, he started going on tour and basically just showing up to sound off on things. He supported Artur Pawlowski's stupid Solidarity Party in Alberta, which was just about COVID grievances, while the UCP was trying to fend off the NDP. And they were almost running explicitly to try and make the UCP lose. Extremely stupid. And now he's like actively, like, I'm not someone who says this willy-nilly. Now, if you just follow his Twitter, it's just actively just making fun of gay people. And it's just dumb.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
think
sort of
that's
like-
winning any support? Oh,
but-
Melissa Lantsman's gay. Oh, that means she's left-wing. You're an idiot. Well, you're an actual idiot. Melissa Lantsman wants to probably kick his butt. So let's.
And this is why you don't lionize children and put them on the front lines. Like this is why child soldiers is bad in real war and in the culture war. Children, people who are young, you have this, your brain isn't fully developed till 25, this and that. Like, but if you're old enough to go 18 to go to war, like, I don't believe high school kids or anyone really under 18, like same thing with Greta. Like we shouldn't be paying attention for kids because it's not good for them. Like to be in that developing state of like adolescence and then like be given celebrity, like it's not good for the like. I'd support Josh Alexander.
There's very few who are level-headed enough to do it. And it's even the kind of the problem you get in politics. The reverse of the Josh Alexander is the dopamine hit you get from people cheering you on. And they're like, Josh. And you're like, I'm going to say everything that ticks off the anti-woke people because that's what made me popular. It's every single TikTok star, Instagram person who hits a niche and they just drill, despite the fact that they're like ruining their reputation.
Yeah, and like the PPC wanted his celebrities. They took him on tour with him and like did all these political actors like were using him for his celebrity at the time. And it's like, it's gross. Like
he's
kids,
going on like
I support kids being vocal. Like if you like, I'm not saying like, if you're a 15-year-old kid or like you're a 15-year-old kid is like out of high school or whatever, and like they're active and like getting involved in this stuff and they're really precocious and like they're out there learning and making a difference. Like I do support that, right? But I just do believe that kids should have like it's practice, right? It's like you do that within like your high school and your social senate. Like we don't need to add the entire world onto their shoulders, and like it's a bit of a practice game, and then they can get into student activism at university and start to like actually gain in real world experience. Like you have kids at university part of these events, and like that's different, right? But when it's like kids under 18 who are like developing, like don't turn these people into heroes or villains. Like here's
the thing too, and this is the reverse example of Josh Alexander. You see this happen in politics a lot, and it's not even exactly the party's fault or just the system's fault. It's really just I think parents' fault.
Point. Yes.
You don't, but you don't take your 15-year-old, your 17-year-old, and like it's almost kind of a bad thing. Don't let your 17-year-old intern for any party unless they're the sort of kid who can handle it. There are so many political interns I know who get like completely, when I say brainwashed, I don't mean in like the sense that they're taken over and they're puppets. I mean in the sense that they kind of almost lose their personalities a little bit once they get into politics too early because they learn all the wrong lessons about working with people and they become hyper pliable in a bad way. Most of politicians, where MPs have personalities, they have the issues they care about, they have this. And have you ever seen those kids on Twitter who start standing individual MPs? It's like you don't even know anything about them. But the thing is, they start trying to, copy and paste celebrity culture onto politics.
And you move up the ladder, and it's like there's a system that like gets you in politics where like you can hamster and you can move up the prescribed steps by being someone. Let's put it what it is. By being someone's bitch, you can move up a little ladder in politics. It's an old thing. Like,
Yeah.
there are systems and there's political operatives and it's entropy and it's the way of the system. And like,
I
there's
will
dirty
though
politics and all
say
this,
the
like-
problem is, and this is why it's dangerous, there's a ceiling to doing that, because you are going to only train yourself to do one skill really well, which is basically affirming other people. And what you want to do, and
you can make yourself an
this
obsequious
is no
staffer.
party's fault. I see this happen in every party. I especially see it in the PPC, the people who will follow the PPC, and all they do all day is tweet at Bernier. But like, this guy's now an MP, really good guy. I like him. Shuv Majumdar, as soon as he became, or Shavloy Majumdar, as soon as he became an MP, there's a bunch of random almost reply guy conservative types. I'm not sure if they're interns or they just want to become interns. And they're like, Shuv's amazing. He's so great. I'm like, you're 15. You don't know anything about this guy. Like, settle down. Wait until he has a great clip because he dunks on Trudeau and say, wow, this guy's a great MP. But there's all these people like, oh, he's the best. He's the something. I posted something about him after he won that he will be great. But I even specifically said on foreign policy, he's a really, really strong voice. But the thing is, there's all these other people who say, oh, he's the ultimate conservative. You don't know anything about Shuv. Stop talking. It's weird.
Well, yeah, and like you're right. There's a ceiling to that. Like, you're not a dangerous person. Like, no one will make deals with. Like, if you can move up the ladder by being an obsequious sort of cog in the machine.
If someone could pour soup down your pants and you'd apologize to them, you're not going to become an MP.
Because there is always a function to people who you can control, right? If people are pawns on a chessboard, you always do need someone who you know could be pushed. But the people who make it, like, you need to be able to push yourself up the ladder in some ways and do things as an individual, like which you do not learn in politics. You're explicitly told not to do that, and then you do that and you succeed, and everyone's like, "Whoa, wow, he figured out something genius." All right, we've done an hour and 15. I have
a lot. Yeah.
I have Salman calling me. I still have a few things to do tonight. I think we covered everything. You know.
Wait. No, we almost left Patch in duress to do a play on words. But last super chat of the night, what's your opinion on Javier Milei's speech to the WF? Apparently he intended to sow seeds of freedom at the WF, taking the fight to the globalists and AI, and being the unconventional being the unconvinced to the freedom fold, bringing the unconvinced. I think he corrected the grammar later on there, so I don't think I was misreading that. But we already talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, but to maybe put a finer point on it right now, I actually think that what Javier did was good, because there's all the people mocking the WEF because of the ridiculous things going on this year. That's one thing that's going really bad for the WF. A lot of people are not waking up in this profound way that, oh, the shells have fallen off of my eyes, the scales have fallen off my eyes. Now I see. People just didn't pay attention before because who cares? The WF's really boring. The WF actually should have stuck to being boring. Now they're cringe and people are making fun of them. And then Javier showed up, and I think that was the kind of shatter point where he's done a lot of damage, because while everyone's looking at this ridiculous stuff, the only guy who said anything worth hearing was saying, these people suck, I'm going back to Argentina.
Yeah, and I think what he did is he helped delegitimize the World Economic Forum, which is good. Like, that's what the World Economic Forum means, is like delegitimization. Like, right, this is what I say, like, don't treat them like these super criminal geniuses, because that actually kind of appeals to the left. Like, oh wow, we have these super technocrats who are so smart, I'll just vote for them because they know and I can be one of the smart people, right? But you have to show, like, no, they're idiots. And here's the leader of a country, right, being like, this is bullshit, guys. Like, I don't respect this institution. You're wrong.
Yeah, all these people's plans are collectivism at the end of the day.
He sets it up. Then it could be a thing where, like, yeah, maybe Trump's going to go there and smack the World Economic Forum, and other people will go. And it's like, you lose your prestige of, like, this unifying thing.
Yeah. Oh, and we have one more to close it off for the night. Hannah Fudge, thank you, Smartman. Good night. Thank you, Hannah. You're a fantastic person in the freedom movement in this country, and thanks for signing on to the chat to say hi. But yeah, so that should be it for the show today. We will be back probably next week. Tuesday, Thursday seems to be the best times for us. I might do some live streams in between them. Daniel might do some live streams in between them. We're upgrading our sets as the channel is sort of becoming bigger. If you're watching on X or you're watching on Daniel's channel, go and subscribe to the TNT, the National Telegraph channel, just so you can sort of, have more opportunities to see our content. And other than that, I'm not sure if you have anything else to say, Daniel.
Yeah, like and subscribe, click buttons, share, blah blah blah. You have to do that. We'll see you tomorrow when I find something new to yell at.
Fantastic. Oh, and the National Telegraph website is being upgraded. So in the next few weeks, we will have the website back up and running, and we can write articles and actually distribute them better, because it will be a website worth actually bookmarking and checking in on every day. So I guess with leaving on that, we'll see you guys next time.